A lot of years, 40 years, I've been teaching since 1985. I was very young. I was a child. I was literally a child. And people would knock on the door and say, "Is your dad in?" And I'd say, "Yeah, why?" And they'd say, "Oh, come for guitar lesson." And I'd say, "No, I am the guitar teacher." I didn't bat an eyelid doing that so young, and it just sort of grew from there. Over the decades, literally hundreds of pupils. I can't imagine how many pupils. I don't know about thousands, but hundreds of pupils over those years. Yeah, it's always been there. It's always been part of the career. I would say the most important thing is getting the pupil connected to the grid. The grid being the understanding of how to progress, learning to learn. As soon as they're connected to the grid, there's no stopping them, but they have to be connected. If they're off grid and just don't get it, they've got to have faith and trust in the system. So the most important thing is the connection to the source of the truth, of the path to enlightenment, physically progressing, arriving at the highest potential of oneself, of the pupil. Definitely. Good question. Theory, people tend to think of it like academic grade system, notation, reading music, writing music, which is all very important and very useful, but it is a human invented system. The grade system and notation is the way to record music, and it's not really anything to do with the guitar. It's just a useful thing to do, whatever instrument you play. But that's not theory in mind. There's a theory of it, theory within it, which they call theory. But real theory is the wiring under the board, so to speak, of how the equation of music. Nothing is random. There is an equation of harmony and like the DNA of music, the structure, the orchestration, the beauty of harmony, and being the master of that system. That's theory. When I say nothing is random, you can make sense of anything. You could get somebody to come in who can't play a note on the keyboard, for example, and just go bum bum but if you analyse that, you could build around that, because nothing is meaningless. Nothing is, oh, that's not music. Everything is music, notes together. So to understand that, to manipulate and take it the right way, to become the almost the godhead of orchestration, that's theory. Knowing the wiring under the board of harmony and equation of music. That's theory, and that's what people learn here. Scales are extremely important. Again, in kind of academic structures and systems, one would learn them just for the sake of playing so many scales to pass the grades. But scales, when you learn them here, two main reasons really. One is for composition. Every little melody you hear throughout the day, every little riff, every vocal line, every sax solo, everything you hear is taken from scales. So to understand how they work and apply them and compose and create from scales. That's one of the reasons for, they're the vehicles to create. That's one reason for knowing scales. And of course the other reason is to improvise. So if you know what chord sequence is being played, what orchestration is being performed, knowing how to apply the notes from certain scales over certain structures, whether it be blues, jazz, rock, classical, funk, whatever, soul, metal. You think, someone's playing a jazz sequence, so you think jazz and apply the scales in that style. So improvisation and composition are the scales are the vehicles for those two things. Absolutely. Many pupils over the years have gone on to be professional musicians. Many have gone on to be guitar teachers locally, joined professional bands, session musicians, composers, own studios. So that's always a great feeling, especially if you taught those people from scratch, which many of them I did. And they start at the age of 12, and then 10 years on they're professional musicians, and they still might be coming for lessons because it sort of goes on, but they are earning a living from what they've learned. So that's a great feeling to know you've taken them into that world. Well, obviously, but I think you could say there are different categories of pupils. I mean, for a start, there are the ones who start from scratch. They're perfect because they're totally pure and innocent in the way, no bad habits. I can sort of program their minds to override the brain, which will always try and take control and get round things just for survival, but I can train them to approach it and be the master of the guitar. So they're ones from scratch. There's some who've been playing for decades. Some have been playing long, before I was born, and they're just like been in a rut, in a sort of a blockage, a cycle of not getting anywhere. They might have been in bands over the years, but they feel they've got to a stage where they want to know what they're doing and learn properly. So they're the sort of two main different types of pupils. You'll get some who maybe won't carry on because they just think the act of paying the weekly lesson fee is what will produce the result, where they are responsible. I'm just the messenger to put forward the information, the training, but they are 100% responsible to, as I often say, water the plant. I will give them the plant or the seeds and the watering can. They have to go away and care for that plant, and if they don't, just come back the next week, then you get sluggish progression, if any progression at all. And people do come out of that. They suddenly realise they've got to practice, and they do. They don't need to practice much. 10 minutes a day. It's all about, as I said, connecting to the source. And then there's the pupils who just know exactly why they've attended the lessons here, either through word of mouth. They want to do it properly, and I won't try and sell it, but I'll often say, we do this, we do that, get the training, and they said, well, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, and not just willy-nilly or getting stuff offline, or from a book. So there are different types. Start from scratch, established players, ones who are connected, understand how to hit that ball back and forth, and some start off perhaps not realising they've got to take some responsibility to progress. Well, the perfect pupil would be someone who totally understands what they've got to do to get better and improve over the journey of coming for lessons. Somebody who practices and gets it, reads the little practice page that I issue at the end of every lesson to really get it, listen to every word, they're investing in, you know. There'll be small talk, there'll be chit chat for the reasons of just relaxation and kind of on a human level talking, of course, but the actual, when it comes down to the right, okay, let's do everything I say is to be taken on board. It's just not verbal nothingness. So the perfect pupil is somebody who takes it all in and takes responsibility, and that they enjoy it. They see the improvement each week. No, because frustration is not an arena, if you can call it, a sphere that I step into. I understand what it is. You know, it's like patience. Are you patient? Oh, you're so patient, Kevin. Acceptance is the word. You accept how people are, and it's up to you to guide them in the right way. So sometimes I think, well, I could see that some people would see this part, surely this is impatience or frustrating for the teacher, but you just got to accept how things are, and that's your job, to guide them on the right path. But you can't sit there and just get totally frustrated and say, excuse me, I just need to go to the bathroom, and then go, and come back, because you just wouldn't teach. It'd be very draining, I think, if you stepped into the arena of frustration. Well, that's a bit of a myth. People often think, oh, you start on acoustic guitar, especially when they're young children, for Christmas, get them an acoustic guitar, start off with acoustic, and then if they want to, go on to electric. But actually electric is easier to learn on. I mean, if somebody was just purely an acoustic folky type person, I wouldn't say, well, get an electric. But if you're starting off with a choice that ultimately you want to play electric guitar, I would say, oh, get an electric first, get like a budget electric and learn. Because learning on an acoustic guitar, with exceptions, but generally speaking, learning on an acoustic guitar is a bit like learning to drive a car with no power steering. It's harder. I mean, you could say, well, if I can play an acoustic, I can play an electric, which is true. But you want to move a bit quicker, and also you are quite limited with an acoustic guitar. I said unless you specifically just wanted to be an acoustic artist ultimately, or an acoustic guitarist. But electric, yeah, get an electric first. Easy to learn on. It's not a cheat, it's just a way to move forward faster. There's, at the moment, I think the longest is 20 years. What? 20 years? Yeah, 20 years. I mean, it's ongoing. There's so much to do. I mean, some will get to the equation quicker than others. But even so, if they're learning and progressing, there's always questions, there's always things to do. You don't get to a stage where, when do I finish? It doesn't quite work like that. Naturally it will work like that. It's not that you can go on for eternity, but 20 years is the longest at the moment. I think the longest ever, got to think about this. Getting on for 30 years. 26 years. That's a long time. And you get to know the person really well. You know, they become a friend. No one's beaten 26 years, I don't think. Teaching in a nutshell, it's an interesting thing. I think recently, I don't know if it's true, but I've said, and other people have said, 80% of it is psychological. I mentioned before about connecting to the source and being on grid with the information that's coming through. So in a nutshell, that's what it's about. It's about enjoyment, but it is a roller coaster. Some parts could be, well, it shouldn't be classed as a chore because you've chosen to go. I think acceptance that you have to practice or experience the playing at home, but it's not all about practicing, which is a term I don't use that often. It's more about experiencing and connecting your heart and your mind to wanting to be a good guitarist, to want to know the ins and outs, the excitement and passion of wanting to do it it has to be there. Not everyone's got it. Some people just think, oh, I'm playing the guitar, I'll have lessons. But you've got to have that, and you haven't got to have hours and hours a day of practice at home, playing guitar. It's just that interest and want to do it, and the guitar lessons and little practice really, but it's the psychological, really savouring the lesson and the information that comes from me. So in a nutshell, it probably covers the ideal pupil is to connect to the source. That's teaching. I know when people are connected and it just flows like a river into them, and if there's a blockage there, they're not getting the full benefit of the lessons or the teaching. But it's I could most certainly write a book on all these years of teaching.